Good morning. Welcome to WNY News. I'm Claudia McLeod reporting from New York. Rudy Giuliani is in the news again. What did he confess to this time? Fulton County grand jury finishes final report in Trump election probe. What does it mean for Donald Trump and his cronies? What did Mark Meadows do with documents when he was chief of staff? A federal judge says Donald Trump is responsible for the January 6 insurrection attack on the U.S. Capitol. This is WNY News. We begin with this breaking news about classified documents found at Biden's Delaware home and in his former office he had when he was vice president. The Department of Justice has appointed a special counsel to investigate the presence of documents with classified markings found at President Joe Biden's home in Wilmington, Delaware. Merrick Garland's decision to appoint a special counsel in the Biden documents case displays a Washingtonian's situational awareness and an acknowledgement of nuanced political concerns. WNY News senior reporter, Ross Smith has that story.
Merrick Garland's appointment of special counsel Robert Hur to investigate the burgeoning Biden documents problem tells us something new about the Attorney General. Notwithstanding his image as a just the facts and law prosecutor, Garland, it appears, may factor into key high-profile decisions, political considerations and the importance of public confidence in the Justice Department's even-handedness. No surprise, one might say. But until now, Garland has maintained and burnished a reputation as a wholeheartedly apolitical Attorney General, indifferent to the consequences of his actions on the other branches and the public. Indeed, even as he turned over to Jack Smith the oversight role in the Justice Department's Trump investigations, Garland pointedly invoked the letter of the law, the extraordinary circumstances that required the appointment of a special counsel. As the President Biden documents surfaced this week, a small number, including classified documents, found in two places. The near-unanimous assessment of commentators has been that Garland had no choice but to appoint a special counsel in the matter. As we've learned again and again over the Trump years, the linchpin of most crimes, including document-based ones, is intent. Former President Trump is in document hot water, and deservedly, because the evidence suggests strongly that he knowingly and intentionally took government documents that should have been turned over to the National Archives, and then spearheaded multiple rounds of resistance and lying to the authorities that wanted them back. By contrast, nothing we know suggests in the slightest that Biden acted intentionally in violation of the law. The record is bare of any indication that the president even knew the documents had left the White House. The discovery of not one but two sets of government material in an office Biden used in Washington and at his Delaware residence certainly is cause for concern. I'm Ross Smith for WNY News.
This is WNY News. Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who became Trump's personal lawyer, speaks during a news conference and made a stunning confession. According to the Associated Press, Rudy Giuliani says Trump once told him to take top-secret documents home. Giuliani said the incident occurred just after Trump became president, when he was working at Mar-a-Lago. Giuliani said he did not bring the documents home. Susan Bernard, legal political correspondent, has more.
Rudy Giuliani, former President Donald Trump's one-time personal lawyer, says Trump once advised him to take secret documents home. Giuliani said he was at Mar-a-Lago, working on vetting some very rich people, specifically, going through their tax returns for Trump. The incident occurred right after Trump became president, Giuliani said. When I was his lawyer, there was a period of time I was there 10 straight days, Giuliani said on a Sunday episode of the WABC 77 radio show, Uncovering the Truth with Rudy Giuliani and Dr. Maria Ryan. I didn't listen to this. This is my training on top secret. I didn't take them out of Mar-a-Lago, Giuliani said, describing how he handled the documents. He told me, oh, take them home with you, Giuliani said of Trump. I'm not going to take Wilbur Ross's tax returns home with me. I could misplace them. I never, ever, knowingly, and I never got caught. But I don't remember ever taking a doc, Giuliani added. He said he would place documents in a small safe at his desk in Mar-a-Lago to be worked on the next day. Giuliani also said top-secret files are very, very strange the way they're put together, and often are very small, but they contain a lot of information. Giuliani and a spokesman for Trump did not immediately respond to WNY's news requests for comments. During the search of Trump's Mar-a-Lago property on August 8, the FBI seized batches of classified documents, including some marked top secret. The Department of Justice is now investigating whether Trump broke any of 3 federal laws, including the Espionage Act, by keeping the documents at his Florida residence. Trump has baselessly claimed the documents found were already declassified, and that he has the power to declassify documents just by thinking about doing so. Susan Bernard, Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach, Florida.
We now turn to story of the Fulton County grand jury probe into Donald Trump's role in the fake electors scheme and his so-called perfect phone call to Georgia Secretary of State. The grand jury probe stems from a January 2, 2021, phone call between Trump and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. The president suggested that the state's top elections official, a fellow Republican, could find the votes needed to overturn his narrow loss in the state to Democrat Joe Biden. Gillis Cook has that report.
As you can see in this photo, Trump is calling Georgia Secretary of State, and this is what he said on that phone call. Trump told Raffensperger he needed 11,780 votes, one more than Biden won. That was a mistake, Cunningham said, because the specific and transactional nature of that comment makes it hard to say he was just generally urging Raffensperger to look into alleged fraud. Prominent Trump allies whose testimony was sought included former New York Mayor and Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, as well as John Eastman and other lawyers who participated in Trump's attempts to stay in power. Gillis Cook for WNY News, Georgia.
Now that the Fulton County grand jury has completed its probe, they do not have jurisdiction to indict Trump or his allies who were involved in the scheme. Only Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis can make the decision to appoint another grand jury to prosecute or press charges if she finds the report incriminating that could lead to an indictment of Donald Trump. The state RICO law, which is broader than the federal version, requires prosecutors to prove a pattern of criminal activity by an enterprise, which could be a single person or a group of associated individuals. It allows prosecutors to assert involvement in a pattern of criminality without having to prove that each person participated in every act. Legal experts believe the Fulton County probe case will be the first to indict Trump for election fraud. What do you think? Former White House Chief of Staff aide Cassidy Hutchinson testified that her boss Mark Meadows burned documents roughly a dozen times in his office fireplace, according to newly released transcripts. Hutchinson, a key witness in the January 6 committee hearings, testified on that Meadows would toss in documents when he added fresh logs to the fire in December 2020. National White House correspondent Archibald Bernard reports.
I recall roughly a dozen times where he would take I don't know the formal name for what it's called that covers the fireplace, but take that off and then throw a few more pieces of paper in with it when he put more logs on the fireplace, she said according to transcripts. The 25-year-old former aide said that a few times he would toss documents into the fire after he met with Representative Scott Perry, who was at the forefront of Donald Trump's election fraud campaign. He was in meetings all day long, so it was after meetings. I don't know specific documents. I know maybe 3 or 4 times, between 2 and 4 times, he had Mr. Perry in his office right before. Hutchinson added that the pair were discussing election issues, specifically the vice president's role on January 6. We learned also that Trump himself was fond of burning, eating, shredding and flushing documents in the White House toilet. I'm Archibald Bernard, in Washington.
Now it's time to talk about why a federal judge in Washington, D.C. Judge Colleen Cattelli, said Donald Trump is responsible for the insurrection of January 6, 2021. The judge issued a written opinion in a case she asked why a particular defendant attacked the Capitol on January 6. The defendant McAndrew was on trial for participating in the insurrection. The judge said, she was clad in a MAGA hat, wearing a red scarf, and wielding a Trump flag, and she knew it was unlawful to enter the Capitol because there were signs stating that the areas were closed and restricted. But she clambered over dismantled bike racks marching past Capitol police officers. We now join Charles Tucker with that report.
In her ruling, Judge Cattelli said, overall, her presence was part of the floodwaters that drowned the Capitol in insurrection and destruction. She wrote, the Stop the Steal rally, then President Trump eponymously extorted his supporters, in fact, stop the steal by marching to the Capitol, and the defendant marched to the Capitol. Having followed then President Trump's instructions, which were in line with her stated desires. In her ruling, the judge said beyond a reasonable doubt, the court fined Damian McAndrew guilty of 4 counts for her heeding to the call of former President Donald Trump. I'm Charles Tucker reporting.
In the previous video, we promised to bring you the full coverage of the Selection Committee findings. And now we want to talk about how Donald Trump purposely disseminated false allegations of election fraud, in order to overturn the election outcome and raise money for his personal use. Those lies provoked his mob supporters to attack the United States Capitol to stop the steal. Mary Brownell reports. The committee referral to the Department of Justice to prosecute Donald Trump for 4 possible crimes. 1. Trump obstructed an official proceeding of Congress with his repeated efforts to delay or deny the counting of the electoral votes on January 6 that would finalize the transfer of power to then-President-elect Joe Biden. 2. Trump committed a conspiracy to defraud the United States, particularly when he offered to make DOJ official Jeffrey Clark acting Attorney General if Clark agreed to help him push the fake electors scheme by falsely claiming the Justice Department had found evidence of widespread voter fraud. 3. Trump entered into a conspiracy to make a false statement when he conspired with others to submit fake electors to Congress and the National Archives. And 4. Trump sought to incite, assist or aid and comfort an insurrection. President Trump was directly responsible for summoning what became a violent mob to Washington, D.C., urging them to march to the Capitol, and then further provoking that already violent and lawless crowd with his 2:24 p.m. tweet about the vice president. The lawmakers wrote, stolen. The criminal referrals mark a historic end to the 18-month-long investigation by the House Select Committee and are detailed in the portions of its report released Monday. The release comes just days before House Republicans, including many who worked with Trump in his effort to toss the 2020 election results, take power this month as a result of the November midterms. If you like this video, please share it and subscribe today. Subscription is free. Thanks for watching WNY News.